r/AskReddit. Disabled people of Reddit, what is your most bruh moment with enabled person? Can I tell on myself? I volunteer as a guide for disabled athletes. One athlete I was working out with is blind. She had her dog and was holding my arm. It's a night, so I had a headlamp. Anyway, when it's about time to turn around, she wants to let her dog off the harness so he can pee. She squats down to undo the buckles and I shine my headlamp on the harness, thinking I'm being helpful. Once I realized what I was doing, I quickly stood up and looked around to see if anyone had seen me being dumb. Ah, man. I have a blind sister. I've seen stuff like that all the time. But there are tons of fun things you can do to mess with other people when you have someone who you're close to that is blind and has a good sense of humor. Turning off the lights in the room she's in and watching your company look like the fuck did you do that for? She can't see a wait. When she bumps into something, ask if she wasn't looking where she was going. Hand her the keys on your way to the car. Hell, last Christmas I almost bought her a coloring book. She gets back at me though. She'll step on my heels in public knowing I can't tell her to fuck off. I once questioned her motives for wanting the window seat on the plane. I was right to do so. She thought it was funny that I had nothing to look at. Shit like that. Blind folk are dope. I was born with a left knee that dislocates very easily, to the point current coworkers will advise new hires, no, he's just setting his knee. He's fuck louder when he's really hurt. In my early 20s, working as a dishwasher, one of the chefs decided to try and prove I was faking by kicking my leg out from under me. Boss tackled him after I dodged the first kick. He didn't work there after that night. I look young because I have a growth deficiency and always get people telling me how I'll look like I'm 20 when I'm 40. People always tell me how lucky I'm to look young. Yeah. No one respects me. It's hard to find a job. Some people refuse to do business with me because they don't believe me, even when I show my ID. Also because my bones and shit are underdeveloped, I get a lot of pains and dysphoria and can't even handle most physical jobs. It's like you have an apple that looks healthy on the outside but rotting on the inside. Also bitch, I'm 26 and want some respect now. I ain't waiting 20 more years. I'm both visually impaired and have cerebral palsy. I asked a woman for directions to the bathroom on my first visit to a store. She led me to the bathroom. Cool. Then she followed me into the bathroom. I was thinking that maybe she had to go to. Then she tried to follow me into the stall. At that point, I had to explain that no, ma'am, I do not need help using the bathroom. One of my arms is unusable and notably underdeveloped, so I do everything with one hand. Once during a meeting with my supervisor, he said something to the effect of, "It's a tough task the first time you do it, but in a few months you'll be able to do it with one hand behind your back." And I was like, well, I guess that depends which hand. The look on his face was great. I actually love making jokes like that with people because you can tell they don't know how to respond. I witnessed this one myself, my friend and our friend who has, I wanna say CP, but I may be mistaken on that diagnosis. Anyway, we are in the backyard with the beers and the spliffs going, and the mosquitoes come out. Friend with CP is trying to light a candle by holding it with one arm and awkwardly trying to flick a lighter to spark it with the opposite arm's hand. My buddy turns to him and says, "Dude, just do this." Grabs it, holds it with one hand, flicks the flame with the other and lights it, slamming it down with authority. CP friend just says, "Yeah, you can do that shit when you have two functioning hands." Yeesh. I was in Target while using my cane. I wasn't doing anything strange, just grabbing some pasta to make for dinner. A woman walked up to me and said, "Thank you for your service." I was very confused, to say the least, since I was a 16-year-old and nothing about me said I was in the military. I respond back, "I'm sorry, what?" Thinking that I misheard her. She tells me, "Thank you for fighting for this country and sacrificing your ability to walk for our freedom." Now, I'm not the type to ever claim stolen valor. My father is a disabled veteran himself. I had absolutely no clue how to respond to that woman though, so I just nodded my head and walked away. Another fairly common what the fuck moment is strangers coming up to me in public and asking if they can pray for me. I always say yes to be polite, but the next few minutes while they pray are very uncomfortable for me. Not disabled, but I've been there. My parents are hippies, and they always walked around barefoot, so I would as well. We would put on shoes to go in buildings, because some places don't like barefooters in their building, but outside we never wore shoes. So when I was young, and my dad and I were out running errands, a lot of people thought we were homeless. This was compounded by the fact that he had a long beard and usually wore torn up clothes. All the time people would ask to pray for us, and we would find different ways of getting out of the situation. Usually we would just say yes, but it's definitely awkward to have some old lady get down on her knees and pray for you when you're healthy middle class and atheist. People have also offered to give me shoes, but I'll either straight up refuse or tell them I'm allergic to shoes. A good thing to do when someone asks to pray for you is say yes, but when they start, hiss in pain and run away. Currently working on getting a diagnosis for some shit that's been ruining my life for 4.5 years. It's bad enough being 25 in a room full of grandparents while waiting at the doctor's. Recently, I had a consult with a cardiologist. Everyone up until then was pretty nice. A lady in the waiting room complimented my crochet. The nurses and NPs were really nice during testing and apologized for making me feel sick. But the doctor was just, I don't even know. He wasn't rude. He's South Asian, so maybe it was just a culture clash. But he came in the room, looked at me, looked at my chart, and says you're too young to have heart problems. What are you doing here? Well, I was hoping you could fix my shit, you know? A 2-hour trip to the cardiologist the day before my birthday isn't exactly my idea of fun. Get through the appointment, have the awkward moment of no, my medication is for bipolar, not seizures. I promise I don't have hypochondria, my parents just shouldn't have bread. Also shitty looks on my way out through the much busier waiting room and a comment about young people faking for attention. Fuck you asshole. Not a disability, just left-right dyslexic. It's as frustratingly pathetic as it sounds, because I can't navigate simple lefts and rights. I have left-right dyslexia, which makes it really hard for me to know left from right unless I'm actively thinking about it really hard for a while. I normally don't tell anyone, and I just take a little to a lot longer to figure out directions than my friends and often sometimes embarrassingly get it wrong. Most of the time people don't notice it, thankfully, but on the occasion there will be moments when I can't figure it out for the life of me and someone who just told me to turn left or right is watching me not know which way is left and are now really concerned about my mental health. I have to explain to them that I'm not mentally challenged or injured, just dyslexic. I don't know if dyslexic is the right word to use for it. 9 out of 10 times they'll try to provide me with a solution to my trouble, that is make L with your hands, or which hand do you write with? And I have to politely assure them that if those methods actually helped me, I wouldn't be standing here trying to figure out which way is left and which way is right and then thank them for trying to help. TLDR, left-right dyslexic and people try to help me with reasonable methods that I have to assure them don't work, otherwise I wouldn't be struggling. Ironically, my bra moment wasn't with an abled person but someone else with a medical condition. So I'm not terribly deformed, but I have a condition called brachydactyly, which means I have deformed digits, fingers, and toes. It's not bad for me, it's only my right hand and foot, and honestly not many people notice. But for people that notice, it's always sort of a circus show. I'll get things like, whoa, can I see your hand? Why are your toes so curly? Etc. It can be sort of annoying, but at the same time people are naturally curious, so I don't really hold it against anyone. But I was talking with one of my friends who suffers from a type of muscle deterioration and was complaining about people pointing it out and asking what happened. Then not even 5 minutes later he noticed my fingers and asked what happened. I couldn't help but chuckle and give him a hard time for that. I'm deaf. One day in Astronomy 100 I was sitting up front, part of an accommodation for me, with an interpreter. After class a girl came up to me and straight up asked me if I could read. Think about this for a second. I'm taking classes at a university. I know she meant well, but still. I told her I could. She handed me a note. On the note she said that she could take notes for me if I needed it. It was a nice gesture, but a really dumb question. I'd love it if you liked and subscribed.